Okay, so I'm going to go into the understanding that just came through, like an insight, and I'm going to explore that further. So I'm going to ask my higher self or my guides to come in and help me understand, help me see this more. Okay, so we have a physical body that is the anatomical representation of, or the densification of the energy body. So the energy body comes first. And like the chakra system that has been placed into the energetic body, the light body, the aura are the main vortexes or vorteces, which is how energy always flows in a toroidal form. In a toroidal form, fractally. And when it's allowed, when it's not disturbed, naturally, organically. So there are toruses within toruses. And there are the chakras, the big vortices, the big wheels, and these are also always portals, because the inside of the torus, the canal, that tornado, where this side spins one direction and the other side spins in the other direction. So it spins in here and it spins out here. So one side is like it pulls it in, and the other side expels it or pushes it out. This is because part of the toroidal field is also the Merkaba field, which is two tetrahedrons they don't meet exactly. They are halfway spun around, and then their middles are sharing, so they're pushed into each other, and the middles are sharing. And the top tetrahedron spins in the opposite direction of the bottom tetrahedron. And where the points are, where the nodes of the tetrahedron, where they come together like this, are touching the toroidal field, which is always spherical. It's like a donut. It can be like spherical, like more like a exact sphere, but it can also be like a donut. It can also be more flat like this. But the makeup of it is always the same. And a vortex is that part where the energy flows in and it goes around, right? So it goes around, and then it goes more and more and more to the top, where it spins faster and faster, and then it gets pulled in, and then it gets pushed out on the other side. So we have these vortexes, which are okay. So here's the other thing: is each vortex is also a portal. So when we talk about portals, it's a vortex, and what that does, as the energy flows, like the tornado, spins always faster, faster towards the center of the toroidal field, which is also the center of the star tetrahedron. And the opposite spin in the opposite directions, which opens up the dimension. It opens up the dimensional field of experience, where then the physicality of the presence of this toroidal field will manifest, let's say, or manifest, become crystallized into become form, densified. The bottom tetrahedron is the one that is the descending one, just like we have a descending and an ascending current, AC/DC. And the descending one is the one that embodies. That's the embodying momentum. And the ascending one is the one where the body becomes lighter, where the body becomes transcendent. And so there's an upspin and a downspin, and this opens up. There's a portal in the center of it all, and that portal, depending on how well, it's always there. That portal is the center of the toroidal field, and everything is made up of toroidal field. Like each atom is a toroidal field, and each particle, photon, electron, all of these smaller particles, that they are also toroidal fields. So all matter is made of toroidal fields, or toruses. And in the center of them, the so-called nucleus, it's not density, it's not matter, and matter anyways is wave energy flowing. Most of it in the end isn't really matter, and when we look at what is in the end, when we look at that matter, then that's not matter either. So it's all apparent matter. When we look at it, it dissolves into even smaller parts, and most of it is space. So but at the center of all of this that we can perceive as matter, which is made up of these toroidal fields, which is the heart of the matter, is a portal. And that portal leads to, or opens up into, what we call the 0 point. And the 0 point is a portal to source light, source energy, source consciousness. All that is, where everything comes from, and where everything goes back to eventually. And that is not a thing, that is not matter. It goes beyond matter into ultimately into pure consciousness, or what is also called the void, or or the potential of all matter. And yes, however, on its way from where it is, from where that matter, that torus is present and being perceived, because how would otherwise it be present? How would there be a knowing that it's present, that it is? It can perceive itself, perhaps. Yes, if it can, then it is self-aware. So that density, or realm or dimension where it is perceived. From there to all the way back to source light, because light is already something. So that's like the coming out of the void, coming out of the no thing is the light. So light comes out of this, out of nowhere, from pure consciousness. Pure consciousness comes into some, the lightest form. Its first form is light before it densifies further. It's pure light. It's I think white light. But that is I'm not 100% sure about that. It's white light. And then the light flows in the form, in the way of the toroidal field, and creates toruses. And the little toruses, they also flow again. They move exactly along the pattern again of a torus, because you can see, first of all, all living alive planets. So I'm not talking about big meteorites or so floating in space. So I am talking about whole living beings. Those are planets. They are also in themselves again a torus, a toroidal field. Then the way that every solar system, the sun is always the first planet of a solar system, and then, so to speak, the other planets, they come out of that portal of the sun after the sun became a sun. Then we have a solar system. All those planets, then, they revolve around where they came from, the sun. That is like their nucleus, their main portal where they came through. And so every solar system, if you look at the way that it, the matter in it, so all the planets in it, moves, is also along the lines of a toroidal field. And then again, a whole galaxy, the way it is also moving, is, you can also see in the middle is this huge light, this huge sun, and everything, like a whirlpool that is a vortex, is revolving around that, and the way it builds and the way all the particles in the galaxy move is also exactly in the form flow of a toroidal field. And so each vortex, smaller toruses make a bigger torus, and the bigger toruses make again a bigger torus, and all in the middle of this vortex. Okay. Back to the 0 point. Right. So we have these vortices in our body. So the biggest ones are the chakras. So those are the biggest portals. And then we have smaller ones. They're also called smaller chakras, but then, it goes into smaller. And when a portal opens, what that means is, okay, this is just what I got today. Is that it opens to 0 point. It opens to source energy. And then there is a pulse of that source energy now flowing through all the way to where that vortex of that toroidal field is present, in which dimension. And And that is healing. That's how healing also takes place. And that is peak performance of flow. So that is when that vortex field in the dimension that it is in can flow at its full potential, at its full capacity. And that means that the velocity of the energy that is being moved through the torus field, it moves through the 0 point and remembers itself. And then what happens is, well, see, this is the thing, what was first, the chicken or the egg? This is happening at the same time. So it's like when the torus field releases the distortion, releases what is keeping the flow less than peak performance or off, unaligned, and blocked, then it relaxes. There's like almost like when a spasm releases, it pulses like this. At the same time, also when a muscle releases, then the energy can flow again, and then at some point when it has that momentum, that the portal can open again, because now the flow is clear. Like it's almost like plumbing. It's like taking out what's in the way of what is blocking it. But you don't. This is the thing. It's not that you take the block out and throw it away. No, what it does is it's remembered. The blockages are remembered. They are remembered as self, because they were taken as other. They were taken as, this shouldn't have happened, this is not me, this is bad. There's a contraction, there's a resistance to it. So that comes with trauma, with memory of when something happened that made us close our hearts, because what was coming at us and what was doing something to us and what was our experience was that of coming from a closed heart, and then we felt that pain. And a closed heart is also a closed portal to God, to source energy. And so it happens when we on a conscious level understand or understand this, because it's not about understanding like an equation or something. It's understanding, because what happens is there is resonance. There is, yes, I get it. I know what you mean. Because it's a wisdom and a knowing that is already there, but we haven't had access to it. And when we then have that access, when we hear it from on the outside, and there's a resonance, then it's like, oh yes, I know this. It resonates what you're saying, or what I'm perceiving now, and then it unlocks. So by consciousness alone, that's why it's possible. That's why it's actually the most powerful healing is by consciousness alone, and in the end, that's what healing also is. And of course, this can be facilitated through material support, be it the conscious. What is plant medicine? You know, what are herbs? And in the end, they carry code. They carry a certain code, a certain frequency, a certain consciousness. They tell a certain story. And so when we take them, that certain vibration, consciousness starts to work with us, with our system, and helping it see things in a certain way and come back into alignment, and helping it come out of that fear state, by lending a helping hand with the fuel that the body needs to perform certain tasks, and with the aid the body needs to neutralize and carry out and detox what is not supposed to be in the body, what is not supposed to be there. Okay. What is the opposite of helping it, and the opposite of nourishing it, and it's just a burden, and yeah, okay, you get what I mean. And causing damage, yeah, because it's not supposed to be there. Or let's put it this way, because it's supposed, of course, it is supposed to be there on the ultimately, but it is not, doesn't belong there. It doesn't belong there exactly, and it is okay. Toxins and okay, yeah. I don't want to go. You get it, okay. Don't want to get lost in detail, so too much. Try my best. Okay, healing by consciousness, and what is healing? So, when we have come to a point where we have dissolved so much of the compressed negative emotion, which is the resistance to what happened, and the belief that it formed, that what happened shouldn't have happened, and all the beliefs around it that have a judgment on how it happened, who it happened through or from, be it ourselves, be it that we cannot forgive ourselves or others. And forgiveness is really, true forgiveness is not something we can do. It's something that comes about through understanding, through recognition, through coming full circle, and through completely receiving, completely openly, with an open heart, receiving what happened in the past. What happened. No more resisting and judging God in a way. Judging all that is. Judging what happened. Ourselves or others. When we can say yes, when we can say yes to everything that happened to us, or everything that we did to another, even though we know that we would have, of course, if we did something to someone else and we feel really bad about it, or even a little bit bad about it, we already know we didn't want to do that. It came from where we were not ourselves. If we feel bad about it, if we have any kind of feeling of I wish I hadn't have done that. I wish I hadn't have said that. Then we already know better, and it didn't come from our true self. It was because we were it was because our programs, our egoic programs, were having the better of us. Were sitting in the driver's seat, and we were not conscious of them. And we didn't have the awareness and the wherewithal at the time to take over, to say, whoa, wait a minute, what am I doing? I don't want to be doing this. Why am I saying this? Wait a minute, this feels so bad. It's just like the program was so strong, and it had so much of our soul energy. So much of our soul energy was in it, was asleep to the spell of separation and the egoic mind and all that false identity, all that the identified false self, the self of that is completely happening in the mind, completely happening only in the egoic mind, but that is not our soul, and that is not how our soul and how our true being would be. And so we, when we feel bad about something that we did, then that is where we were coming from, and the belief that we could have done better. We could have, and we should have. That is the self, again, the self punishment, or the self judgment. That is also keeps that program going, keeps us locked in and continuously under the spell of the egoic mind. So it is part of a self-perpetuating program. And so when we begin to see the self-perpetuating program, when we begin to see the programs that are coming from, because the programs are all in the egoic mind. There is no programming in our true self. There's no programming. And the programming is all in the false self, and the false self is based in separation, is based in that we are separate from everyone else, from every other living entity, and from life itself, and from nature. And depending on how far that separation has taken place, which also has to do, oh my gosh, that has to do with so many things. That has to do with how far along we came as a collective on the planet, how far along, the DNA that we inherit, that we step into as a soul from our ancestors, and their traumas that have caused a lot of separation within them, split from the heart. That's what separation is, because the access to all that we are, to source energy, is in that heart, in that the heart field, the heart chakra, and in the 0 point of that. And of course, the access is in every 0 point, so in every chakra and in every other vortex, nucleus, center portal of every toroidal field, of every vortex. Now, these vortices, when they are okay, that's another. Do I want to go there now? Okay, let's just go there now because it's coming in. So Dan Winter talks about this. When a field becomes self-organizing. It has then gathered so much momentum that it becomes self-organizing, which means now it turns on its own. And that is, for example, what an actual tornado also is. It is that a storm has gathered to such a momentum that it now is spinning on its own. Okay, I just got another. Never thought about this, just came through now. What might have happened, and I'm just going to explore this for a second, is that self-organizing field is also a self-aware field. It is a field that has access to 0 point. Spins on its own. And what I just got is that, and I'm not saying this is how it is, I just want to explore it, that it may be, let's all say it may be, that what a tornado is that a field became self-aware, self-organizing, had access to the 0 point, and thereby everything in that field that is not spinning in the fashion that it is in alignment, that it is in the flow connected to the 0 point, is being spun out. So in other words, it's like it's being detoxed. And that's like you feel sick and you throw it out. Everything that is no longer in alignment with that vibration. The other idea that just came through is that it also could be, a tornado also could be, this is maybe more what it might be. It became self-organizing. It gathered enough momentum. However, there is normally in I will say in an aligned toroidal field, the upspin, the ascending current, is always stronger than the descending current. What happens is when the top spin of the top tetrahedron, of the star tetrahedron, spins slower and slower, and maybe even stops, and the bottom spin, however, keeps going, then that means that the bottom spin now is the one calling the shots, is the one that is the captain of the ship. It is in the driver's seat. But now that means that energy field is descending. It could be. Okay, so that's a beginning. It's a beginning of there's something about it. Yeah. At the same time, what the healing of a tornado is, what Dan Winter keeps talking about, how shamans know how to heal a tornado, is that first of all, a tornado and weather anyways, wind is an element. Wind is an element. Water is an element. Fire and earth. Metal, I think, is a part of, I would say, minerals, so I'm just gonna, that'll be part of earth. And then there's ether, and I believe that ether is the 5th element. And all of these elements are consciousness. It's a form of consciousness, so it's self-aware. And what makes the weather, there is awareness there, and there are also forms of consciousness which we call elemental beings that are part of these elements. And a lot of these or let's just say these elemental beings, we don't see them as physical on this dimension that we're on. We would say they're non-physical. However, we do perceive them in the properties, in the impact that they have. We have impact on their realm and dimension, and they have impact on ours. So when they get very angry and a storm gathers, then a tornado forms. That's also a way of explaining it. And what does the shaman do? How can a shaman... Now, this is just something I heard from Dan Winter. He's a scientist, electrical engineer, and amazing scientist. And he says that shamans can steer tornadoes through their heart, and they can appease them. So what do? How do they heal them? Is they open up their heart field and connect to the tornado. And through their compassion, through that love, okay, what I'm just getting is the tornado no longer has ample or sufficient connection to source energy. So it feels separate from its environment, let's just say. And that's why anger can grow. Anger at something that then is projected at something or someone or any other, so other beings at others, and it can be projected out like, this is bad, I don't like this, and I'm angry at it, and I'm going to now destroy it, for example. Because you wouldn't destroy yourself unless you're self-destructive and you hate yourself. Okay. So there has to be that sense of hate and anger, right? To go out and destroy. And that's what tornadoes do. They will go out and destroy. For example, this is just something that Dan Winter always talks about. Metal buildings and trailer park, where there's a lot of metal and a lot of sharp angles and a lot of exploitation of nature, and where there is a negative impact on their realm, then the elementals can come together and create a destruction of nature. And it's really also what it is they feel our anger. And so in a way, it's like what we have projected out, that energy, has an impact on them, and it's like an echo, and then it comes back. And as it comes back, also, what then that destruction does is it dissipates it. Of course, it can also cause more suffering, cause more anger, and then the loop begins. And that's then how it's also how distortion grows and how illness grows, and then the healing of it is bringing it back through the portal to the 0 point, back to source energy, back to source consciousness. What then happens is remembering. Oh, you can feel yourself again. You can feel your connection to all that is again. And so then everything comes into that alignment, into the perspective that all anger dissipates, because there is no more other to be angry at. It's like I am part, I am not separate. Because if I say part, it could be a separate part that is just somehow through a little bridge connected, you know, in the inverted matrix mindset. It could be that way. It could be interpreted that way. That's why I don't say now connected. Just it's not. I am apart from all of it that is connected. I am all of it, but I'm not all of it. It's like I'm a fractal of, okay, if I'm a leaf on a tree, I am an individual leaf, but I am also the tree. And is the tree separate from the earth that it came out of and was made out of? No. So it's individual and at the same time so unique and onto myself a whole, and at the same time also no separation to the whole. That is no longer perceived. So that is when that portal opens. That's opening portals, and shamans can do that, but they can only do that through their hearts, because that's love, compassion. This is the center of life, is the heart, is the main, and the other, so it is like it is steering the ship. The heart is what is steering the always the ship. Okay, and because through the heart opening, then the other chakras can open, the other little chakras, the little portals, vorteces within us can open up. And of course you could say also it's vice versa. The smaller ones can open up, and this brings forth an opening in the heart, but really it's never one before the other. It's always happening at the same time, and what is leading all of it is consciousness. But it's, let's see, it's not the conscious, it's consciousness. Consciousness is thinking all of it. It's the consciousness of the heart. Yes. Opening is always the heart opening. And heart can open by mind opening. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. That is what I wanted to say. That is the beauty of it. When we see inner stand, okay, let me just tune in for a second. It's all about losing fear. And when we lose fear, we relax. And then the energy can flow. And then the portal can open more to source consciousness. Now, when love is present, fear cannot be present at the same time. We can be in a place that, from our mind, we would say, there is nothing here that I need to be afraid of, from our rational mind. And still, however, there can be a lot of fear stored in our body. And the vortices are not flowing at their capacity. There can be blockages and distortions in the vortices. And so we can sit in a place that we would rationally say, I am completely safe, and still we can feel a lot of fear. The way that we dissolve the fear, which would be the way that we heal it or release that contraction, release that resistance, protection, the need for protection, the fear, release that inner separation. Here's the key, is by feeling the fear, is by being present with it completely. And that, when we are projecting in the story, we cannot do that. We cannot be present with that experience of fear. Where is it? Where is it in my body? You know, I'm not present with that fear in my body, and in that I am not present and aware of that vortex that is not able to spin freely, that is not able to flow in alignment, in the heartbeat, in a rhythm, in a harmonious rhythm with the heartbeat, with source energy. It is still offering up resistance and distortive belief, code, rhythm, energy flow goes off to the natural, organic, connected, aligned, harmonious flow with the part of the toroidal field that is connected into the 0 point, to source energy. And the way to realign it and to get those blockages out of the way is truly the simplest. It's not easy. And I'll tell you why in a second, but it is the simplest thing and is the most powerful thing we can do. Is when it shows up, to be so present with it, it'll take us to the core of it. It'll take us to the source of where that fear is, like, you know, because it can be like all over. We can maybe not pinpoint it, but when we start to sit and tune in to that anxiety, to the fear, to the stress, to the anger, because anger also comes from separation, and that's at the bottom of everything, is that separation, and that feels like a split in our energy body, and that feels also like fear. Or judgment also, you know, judgment is also based on separation and on the split energy. So we tune into the energy of it, then we will be able to feel it more and more pinpointed in our body, and then make it easier for us to be present. Why it's not easy is because the mind, all of the parts of our soul stream, of our soul energy that is still asleep under the spell of the egoic mind, is going to always try and pull us out, and always try, because that's how it flows, that's how it's programmed, always try and pull us out back into the story to project, and when we're in the projection, so when we're into, like, okay, that's where I project now this fear or this anger or this judgment, I'm going to project it out into the story, and it's all happening in the mind, but that is perpetuating the split, the separation, and is the opposite of healing. That is that is perpetuating then the destructive force, the going more into separation, going more into feeling bad. It's holding that. It's holding the suffering also in place. It's holding us separate. So when we know this, and it's absolutely relentless, and that's why I say it's not easy, but when we know this, we can catch ourselves more, quicker and quicker. And when we not just know this, but when also we are really we're wanting to come back home to ourselves. We're wanting to heal. We're ready. We really, we're done. We're done with, we're tired of the suffering. Yeah. Then it, that's really helpful. That's also one reason why I always feel called to, when I have these inspirations and understandings, to share it. So, I've been feeling it. I've been feeling actually in my sacral chakra. I've been feeling just, nothing happening, nothing on the outside happening, but I've been feeling within that area on the physical, in the physical area of it. So in the intestines, that even though it's also it's energetic, but it's also physical, that there is a release happening. And so it's like spasming, like when you've been holding yourself in a certain position for a very, very long time, and when then it's almost like the ice melts and it releases, then it releases in a spasm way, and it feels good. It really feels good. And it's interesting because you actually feel you're not doing anything, and there's something doing in your body, be it energetic. It's both energetic and physical. And so there's a consciousness there in itself, onto itself. And what is happening is, through the being present, when negative emotion shows up, and through the release of the fear, and then it flows better, what happens then is that area is connected back into the flow. So there's also better blood flow, but there's also better energy flows now again through there, because what happened in the mind, and this is how healing by consciousness alone works. What happened in the mind is that also the information now flows, right? So distortion in misunderstanding is also, misunderstanding, when truth comes, the lie is gone. The lie is the shadow, and when the sun comes, we see that the shadow was a shadow. It wasn't a real thing. When the sun comes, and the sun is a portal to source consciousness, to source being, to source energy. It's huge. Yeah, it's just huge. That's what makes a sun, is the total, complete awaken. It's completely awakened. It's completely conscious. It's completely connected to all that is. To the, if you want to so call it, mother, father of all, to the source of all. Of course, the sun itself, every sun itself, again, is, let's say, our solar system is part of a greater solar system. And that greater solar system as a greater sun in its middle, and it's even a greater portal to all that is. And the ultimate that we know physically is the center of our galaxy. However, there are how many galaxies in the universe, like sand on the beach galaxies. And so that means that, for me, the way I understand it is that a universe is all the galaxies swirling around. There must be a center of the universe then too. If everything has a center, then the universe has a center too. And of course, let's not go further into that. I actually need more water. Do I need to I'll take a break, but I need to keep going because I'm not completely done yet. So this will be part 1.